Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive turning point in mythological history. We're talking about a moment where the entire fate of the Greek pantheon hinged on a single, utterly desperate deception. We're going to unpack what is essentially the ultimate ancient heist. So, how do you trick someone who literally sees threats everywhere? I want you to step into the shoes of the Titaness Rhea for a second. Try to imagine the seemingly impossible task of deceiving a deeply paranoid, all-powerful god who is actively hunting for betrayal. For most of us, the answer is pretty simple. You don't. You just can't. But as you'll see, Rhea really didn't have the luxury of giving up. To understand exactly why she did it, we have to look at the incredibly bleak reality of her situation. This brings us to Chapter 1, The Threat of the Sky Ruler. Okay. So we're dealing with Cronus, the reigning titan of the cosmos. His wife, Rhea, basically had a front-row seat to his reign of terror, and for a long time she was completely powerless to stop it. The terrifying stakes of her reality really just come down to this one number, 5. 5 times Rhea went through childbirth, and 5 times Cronus literally swallowed her babies alive. He wasn't just doing this out of random cruelty either. He was driven by this intense paranoia over a prophecy that one of his children would eventually overthrow him. So every single time, Rhea just had to sit there and watch in silence, entirely stripped of her power. But when she got pregnant for the 6th time, a flip just switched inside her. Surrender was no longer an option. This was about saving the absolute last glimmer of hope she had left. Her paralyzing fear finally transformed into this incredibly cold, calculating determination to fight back against the ruler of the sky.
And that kicks off Chapter 2, The Mother's Secret Plan. This is where the mythological heist truly begins.
Rhea knew perfectly well that a direct assault was impossible, so she realized she had to weaponize Cronus's own psychological blind spot, which was his absolute unwavering overconfidence. Let's break down exactly how she did this step by step. First, as her due date was coming up, she secretly fled to a hidden cave on Mount Ida in Crete to actually give birth to her son, Zeus. Second, instead of bringing him back, she hid the baby, handing him over to nymphs so he could be raised in total secrecy. And third, and this is the real heist element right here, she took a massive stone and swaddled it in baby clothes. She methodically arranged every single fold of that fabric to perfectly mimic a sleeping newborn. You really have to feel the immense tension of this preparation. One small mistake literally meant game over. If that stone looked even slightly off, or actually, scratch that, if even a single fold of cloth slipped at the wrong second, the whole illusion would shatter. If Cronus got even a tiny hint of suspicion, it wouldn't just mean the death of her hidden son. It would absolutely mean her own death, for sure. And that brings us right to the agonizing climax of the whole operation. Chapter 3, the tense handover moment. Just imagine the sheer willpower it took for Rhea to walk back into that massive, grand palace, carrying her fake baby, stepping right up to the literal monster who had already devoured her previous children. She survived because she had the perfect alibi. She had to present this bundle while looking sad, defeated, and utterly hopeless, exactly like she did the 5 times before. Her hands were literally shaking, but the dramatic irony here is just incredible. Her genuine, visceral terror of being caught was interpreted by Cronus, our Mark, as a grieving mother's heartbreak. Her real fear is what made the performance completely, flawlessly convincing. And then, the moment of truth. Without a single second of hesitation, Cronus swallowed the stone. He didn't pause, he didn't check the bundle, he didn't peel back a single layer of cloth. The supposedly unstoppable, all-seeing Titan fell for the trick hook, line, and sinker, exactly as he had done with the real babies 5 times before. But the heist doesn't end there. As we move into Chapter 4, Living in the Shadow of Lies, we realize this was actually a grueling long con. Pulling off that switch was really only day 1. For years afterwards, Rhea had to live a lie right next to the monster. Now, what's really interesting about this comparison is the massive psychological split she had to maintain. On the outside, the flawless facade of a loyal wife and a grieving mother. But on the inside, she was fiercely guarding the greatest secret in the universe, nurturing this hidden glimmer of hope that was growing stronger every single day in that cave on Mount Ida. And, as you probably know, that hope eventually grew into a lightning-wielding god. Chapter 5 marks the payoff phase, the fall of the Titan's power. Once Zeus was old enough, the long con finally transitioned into a direct assault, and it set off this spectacular domino effect. First, Zeus teams up with the Titaness Metis. Together, they drug Cronus, which forces him to vomit up literally everything he had swallowed. It started with that very same stone and was followed by Zeus's 5 fully grown siblings. Just like that, the cosmic throne is lost, and the old order completely falls apart. The deception had finally triggered the revolution. So what does this all mean? Let's wrap things up with Chapter 6, Lesson from a Stone. Think about the really profound impact of this whole narrative. The entire Olympian era, the whole structure of the Greek cosmos, it all traces back to an unexceptional rock wrapped in a blanket delivered by a mother with just unparalleled cunning. As the quote says, the greatest strength doesn't always come from muscles or lightning, but from the patience to wait for the right moment. Kronos wasn't brought down by a stronger power. He was defeated by his own carelessness and a mother's absolute patience and courage to wait for the exact right second to make her move. And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to chew on. Who do you think is truly braver here? Rhea, who had to wake up and live every single day in the terrifying shadow of her secret, maintaining a decades-long psychological heist, or Zeus, who finally stepped out of the shadows to face his father directly with his lightning? It really makes you rethink what true bravery actually looks like, doesn't it? Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. I'll see you in the next one.